Okay, so we look at this, and I want to kind of explain how this went off. So for those who didn't see this, we've got the video, and roll the video if you can. Are we going to take a break, by the way, Tracy? Are we going to take a break first? Not yet. Okay. So what's happening here is you've got the ship that is out 60 miles, and at Splashdown, the ship has been out there for a while. It maintained about a 1.5 to 2 mile distance away from the actual capsule. And then the divers, the Navy divers, were out there immediately because what they do, as you can see, they put the flotation around the capsule, just like they used to do in the old days. And then they go in, and you have a medical team that goes in to kind of observe all of the astronauts to make sure they're okay. In fact, we talked to a former astronaut who said that when you splash down, and maybe you can add to this, Dylan, when you splash down, what happens is that motion of going up in the ocean is one of those things that a lot of astronauts over the years have gotten sick because of that seasickness right away.
It seems ironic, right? NASA hires astronauts that don't get seasick.
Right.
You want someone who has a very strong stomach. It's part of the qualifications for becoming an astronaut. And yet, this phase, when you're in the ocean, is actually the time when someone might get nauseous.
Yeah, it really is. And so you go back to this, you have the divers, and they're the ones that open the hatch. And then they put the floats around the capsule so that it stays upright. And then they check, the medical team goes in and checks to make sure they're away, make sure that there's not one or the other astronaut that needs a priority, lift out of the capsule and then onto the boat. And then they bring them out. They put them on a float raft. And then the float raft leads to the helicopter, and the helicopter will take them back to the ship. And then they pick up the last two, and it's the same process all over again. You just saw video of the astronauts taking pictures with members of the crew on board the ship. And so it kind of goes back and forth on and on like this for the better part of maybe 2.5 hours. We still haven't gotten word yet as if to hear if the astronauts have been lifted off of the boat and going back to San Diego. We assume that will happen sometime very soon, if it hasn't happened already, but the live pictures showed the helicopter still there. So my guess is that they have not left yet. Dylan, what do you think?
What's amazing to me also is the fact that we're just 60 miles off the coast of California. Santa Catalina is almost halfway between mainland Los Angeles and where they are. And that's thanks to a lot of the precision for the ability to enter right where we want them to.
Yeah.
And it leads them to be able to get onto land so quickly.
Yeah. It really is. It's kind of crazy. And they were talking about today, which I also found fascinating, Dylan, is they were talking about the concept of coming down, right? And you see the 3 parachutes, you see them kind of go off, and the parachutes are there, so everything is floating down. It almost looks like we're going back in time because we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that in 50+ years. I mean, my kids are watching this, they're riveted by it, but nobody has seen that kind of a landing in 50+ years.
Honestly, a lot of that technology was already proven out long ago. And if it's not broken, don't fix it. And it still has a lot of that reefing process where it uses detonation to open up the parachute in phases.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Because the capsule looks like an Apollo capsule. It looks like the same thing. It looks like we have just went back in time, and the pickup is the same. You see the Navy going, I guess if it works, don't fix it, right?
Exactly.
So that's kind of the concept here. Tried and true is tried and true.
It really is, and even with the Artemis I to now the Artemis II mission, NASA didn't try to make changes when they already found success.
Yeah, and that's the whole key. Don't make changes when you find success. Earth's atmosphere, so, you kind of learn. You go and you do a little bit of homework on this. Earth's atmosphere, as we talked about, the reentrance happens at 400,000 feet, right? And this thing is going, at the time of reentrance, this thing, or just after it reenters, it is going 24,661 miles per hour, which is, for lack of a better way of describing this, about 12 times faster than a commercial airline is going when when it's at 35,000 feet. It's also about, 40 times higher than a commercial airline flying at 35,000 feet. So the John P. Murtha, which is the ship right here, is still 1.5 miles away. It doesn't move. But the Navy, the boats and the things, they're in the water hours and hours and hours ahead of time because they've got to they want to make sure that all the conditions are correct for landing, Dylan.
Exactly. Like the Kármán line is at 100 kilometers, or about 330,000 feet above our atmosphere. And we say that the entry begins around 400,000 feet, just beyond that Kármán line. And once you're in that zone, you're being welcomed to Earth by little particles that eventually slow you down and heat you up until you're back in the ocean.
The Navy helicopters are 2 Navy Seahawk MH-60 helicopters. They're the ones that transport the astronauts from the capsule back to the ship that you're seeing now, and then from the ship back to San Diego. That happens, we think, very soon, and then they can kind of move on. The news conference, we were talking earlier about the possibility of maybe having an astronaut, maybe having a few astronauts, and I think that got shut down pretty quickly because the astronauts are really not in the frame. They've got testing to go through. They've got medical examinations to go through. They've got a checklist to go through, Dylan, before they can, they're probably hungry. There's probably a lot of things that are going on before they're going to be, paraded in front of the media. One
thing, though, that has changed a lot since since the Apollo days is the lack of a need for quarantine. Back in those times, the astronauts right now would not be seeing their families for another probably couple of weeks, and now they're able to go see them probably tomorrow in Houston.
Yeah, tomorrow in Houston, it'll be a great homecoming for them in Houston, and the question is, will some of these astronauts be on future Artemis flights? Is it a rotation thing? How do we do that? I mean, I'm sure they've all raised their hand and say, I'll go again, but what's the policy on that?
The NASA Astronaut Corps currently has about 48 active members, and the Canadian Space Agency has about 4. And there will be an effort to rotate, but certainly the ones that just went have a lot of experience that might be useful on Artemis 3 or 4.
Right, yeah, and do you move up? I mean, you had the commander. Does maybe the commander move on, or does somebody move up to become commander? How does the hierarchy work for that?
Certainly there could be a new person that comes in who has probably flown to space before, who could become commander for the next mission.
Yeah, really just remarkable stuff here. It's remarkable because this thing started 10 days ago, and the thing went flawless. I mean, we were talking to the astronauts on the second night that they were there, and they were still trying to figure out, the microphone. And I'm not sure if we have any video of that, but with the microphone, we were talking to them, and, they dropped the microphone. You didn't have to hand it to somebody. You just drop it, and it floats. So this is during our interview, right? And the microphone they would hand, no, they didn't hand it. They just drop it, and then somebody would pick it up because it's just floating right in front of them. And you see, we were talking with Christina Koch, and she was saying the first night was really hard because she slept upside down. She had to kind of sleep upside down, and she was trying to get herself in a better position, but sometimes you got to get used to that stuff.
Your orientation doesn't really matter. When you're in microgravity, everything feels weightless. Everything feels right side up to you. Once you're able to get what's called the vestibular system, essentially the fluid in your ears to tell you that you're okay, any orientation could be sleeping orientation.
Yeah.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.